All right, what's up, everyone? This is Abraham Marquez. I'm an investigative journalist with the Southlander, and I'm joined here today with Leo Martinez. He's a community organizer and an immigrant rights activist based out in Oxnard. A lot of people know about him because of what happened on October 16th, where while he was out in the streets patrolling, looking for ICE, ICE followed him, rammed their vehicle against him, brutalized him, and detained him. Thankfully now he's out. But Leo, man, thanks for joining us. Before we get into it, I kind of want you to paint the picture for our audience of what was the vibe like and what was the feeling like in your side of town in Oxnard prior to October, because the siege started in June 6th. So that's a lot of months of organizing, a lot of work, building from the ground up. So if you can talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely, man. Thank you. For us, we've been doing this work specifically under this name and under this umbrella since November, December of last year. So we knew from the beginning that we had to get a bunch of Know Your Rights workshops going to get everybody prepped and set up. We had to set up a text notification system. And then naturally, those two things snowballed into this whole other project that we have now, where we're 700, 800 volunteers strong across the county. We are doing patrols every morning in every neighborhood. We also do one of our most successful projects has been setting up neighborhood defense committees that focus in different apartment complexes. We show up and do trainings there so that they can respond to ICE when they show up, which has been amazing. They've been able to kick so many ICE agents out of this county in so many different occasions. Aside from that, we do a lot of work with the elementary schools. We do work with parent groups. We do work with Zumba classes. We do work with anybody and anyone that is community based that's down to get in on the information, which we're more than happy to share. And we also do a whole lot of family support. So when someone's detained, the whole support system that needs to be behind a lot of those families, which sometimes they don't have any other family members in town. So we end up being that support system for them. Everything from helping them find whoever's detained within the system to putting money on their books, commissary, to we've taken kids, we've taken adults, older folks down to the border to meet with their family members out there, or just a whole host of things. We really don't have a laundry list of things that we do. We kind of approach it more as, like, a lot of us who are migrants or children of migrants have been through this before in some way, shape, or form. We approach it as the family members. It's like, all right, somebody was taken. What kind of support does the family need? Do we need to help them sell a car? Do we need to help them cover bills for this month or help them find a job? Things like that. So we've been doing that work for a very long time. By the time the beginning of June hit, when the LA raids basically kicked off, we were also dealing with a lot of those effects because we have two military bases here in Ventura County, and we're the next county up from LA. So all of the out-of-town border patrols, all of the out-of-town ICE agents, all of the out-of-town, whether it was FBI or any other agency, they were all staying here locally. They were all staying in the hotels around here. They were all staying and operating out of military bases. So it really kicked our operation into high gear because we knew we had to get them out, and we weren't going to get the maybe international press that LA was going to get, but also we knew that because we were a smaller county, we stood a better chance at holding the line, but more importantly, being able to push back and aggressively kick them out of neighborhoods. We had a lot of success before that, but it wasn't until June that we really went heavy into patrolling. We really went heavy into a lot of the outreach that we were doing. We were able to kick them out of so many hotels in the county just by letting it be known that that's where they were staying. And just off of their nervousness, they would move to the point where they just moved out into the valley. So there was a period of about a month where the valley was getting hit harder and East County was getting hit harder than anywhere here within Ventura County, because all the agents basically got kicked out to that side of the county. And they didn't really have too much that they were able to get away with out here, because I remember one day there was a team of us, we were following from every angle in downtown Oxnard, and I remember one of them ran a red light on me, and I was mad at myself because I was like, damn, let that one get away. But then in that moment, another one cut across in traffic, and I was like, all right, well, it looks like I'm just following that one. And I specifically remember that being such a chaotic day. But at the end of the day, we sat down with everybody else that was chasing that day too, and we looked at our notes and we're like, well, you know what? nobody was reported as taken today. So even though it was chaos
Mm.
and everybody was running around, nobody got taken today. So that was a one of the many successful days that we had. Um, so that's a big part of it. So leading into October 16th, the difference that week of October 16th was that that was the first week that we had seen them actively turn aggressive towards us as the watchers or the people that were observing them, right? The
Yeah.
legal observers. There had been previous times where they'd pulled out guns on us or where they'd threatened us over and over again, or where they'd usually they just run to the local law enforcement and make up some crazy lies about how, we're aggressive or we're threatening them or whatever it is, right? To make them at least stop us for a bit while the ICE agents got away. But that week of the 16th was definitely the first week that they actively turned around, faced their cars towards us. We were the focus of attention. That Monday, they had blocked off one of our other volunteers at a traffic light that she was waiting to make a left turn at a light.
Mhm.
They got out of their cars. They started banging on her windows. She didn't roll them down or anything, but her window did end up getting smashed,
Mm.
um, which is traumatizing for a lot of folks. Even if you're an experienced volunteer, it still adds
Yeah.
to the trauma. This is a woman who patrols every day, and she goes out and patrols before she takes her kid to school.
Mm.
So this is a job that we all do, that we all put in our time and effort. We're all volunteers. Nobody in our organization cashes a check. So it's something that we saw that day kind of escalate the situation. That same day, also, they tried to turn on me. They pulled guns on me. I uploaded the video. It got a good amount of views, which I know that they saw because they were clearly pissed. And I gave them kind of a little run around through the neighborhood and the alleys in a little slow speed pursuit. And I know that they saw that because it was the same exact vehicle that we ran into again on that Thursday when the incident happened on the 16th.
Mhm.
And that one was, I could say with all honesty, it's like I never honked my horn at them. I never yelled at them. I never did any of that. They just immediately recognized me and said, "This is the fucking guy from Monday. Let's go get him." And that's where the video shows that it's like making multiple U-turns, and I tried to evade them. And when we were going around in circles in the middle of an intersection, I said, "All right, well, let's touch on these brakes. Let's see how good my brakes are right now." And after I brake checked them and they hit me, that I think got them really, really mad. Clearly, it made them really mad. And that's when they came in to try and hit me on the driver's side.
Okay.
So it was a difference before and after.
Yeah, so I know prior to the tension going into the Central Valley, for me, from my perspective, it seemed like whenever whenever they rode up to neighborhoods in here in East LA or anywhere across LA, they were faced with resistance, right? There's even times where they got pushed out of Boyle Heights, even down in San Diego.
Yeah.
It was even reported that a lot of these agents were upset because everywhere they went, there was people there fighting them, recording them, documenting it, being on social media, and like they were mad that like, hey, we can't do our job peacefully. These bounty hunters. So I remember they kind of like took a back seat for a little bit, and it got kind of quiet, and out of nowhere is when it kind of went into the Central Valley, right? Because I'm sure, I know I've spent time in the farmlands out there. If you're out there, you're far away from people, right? So
Yeah.
so it's easy to grab someone and no one notices anything. But to their surprise, they got met with resistance, and that I saw that video in Oxnard, people coming out, pushing them back and pushing them back. So I want you to talk about how like, if you part of an organization, are you doing this solely, or is it you have a group with you? Because I know you can't do this by yourself. This is
No,
yeah.
it's impossible. Yeah, we started the organization VC Defensa officially under that name in January, and from there we focused on being a grassroots countywide organization, a response teams countywide. And the way we were able to do that is by dividing the county up into 4 groups. And for example, having the Ventura group do a lot of outreach in the neighborhoods where they feel they're most vulnerable. Everybody needs to know their city. Everyone's going to know their city better than us that are not necessarily in that city, right? Just like we're going to know our city better than anybody else that's coming in around.
Yeah.
So we try to build off of that and build off of the already existing networks and relationships. So when we tell folks, hey, go into these apartment complex, and what you're looking for is you're looking for the mamas luchonas, which is a common phrase, right? You're looking for the scrappy moms. These are the moms that are already in these apartment complexes, already doing family support, already doing some type of resource distribution, already doing a lot of the networking that is necessary. And they have their communities on lockdown. They just need support. They just need some more resources and some more trainings for their folks. And we're happy to have them all across the county. We're happy to find them all across the county, but because they are the key people to build with and to work with, and they end up being our downest and
Mhm.
most valuable volunteers, right? So once we had that established, then it just became getting the phone number out to as many people as possible,
Mhm.
and so they have somebody to call for backup and reinforcements, while at the same time, when those down times would happen where there wasn't a whole lot of activity,
Mhm.
it was just constantly running workshops and doubling down on the workshops and being able to do as many workshops as possible. One of the things that we're very proud of is that in this county, we've been able to fundamentally change the way ICE operates multiple times.
Nice.
When we first started doing this, they were going out maybe 3, 4 times a week. And for us, it felt like we were chasing ghosts because we didn't have enough people that had leads. We didn't have enough people that had our number out there. We didn't have enough people that were really that knew how to get a hold of us, or when we heard about things, it was after the fact, or we'd get a lot of reports. 90% of the reports were always false alarms for, undercover cops or drug task force or something like that. So we evolved as a community because after so much content and so many videos that went out, everybody was able to identify it and say, hey, that blue Nissan Murano that you guys uploaded last week, it's over here in this neighborhood right
Mhm.
now. So now we're getting a very specific tip about a very specific car where the public is already educated enough on how to identify certain cars, so we don't have to deal with a lot of the maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We could hit the ground running and say, hey, everybody hands on deck. One of the other things that happened too is that because we were so effective for so long and we continue to be effective, we saw another need that came about because the bulk of the arrests now, for example, is they might only be going out somewhere in the county once a week at the absolute most, maybe twice a week to try and make an arrest. And most of the times we're right on them. But they're still hitting their quotas and they're still hitting their numbers because these cowards started focusing on everybody that shows up to check in at the ICE facility for asylum process or visa process or some kind of work permit process or some type of legal process that they have to go in for check-ins. Those are the people that they're detaining. So if every day there's 10 appointments that they process and they hold on to 2, 3 people a day, add that up at the end of the month, you're looking at anywhere from 30 to 40 people. So that's how they're still hitting their quota without having to go out into the streets and doing the hard work of facing off against a lot of the resistance that they're going to run into across the county.
Oh wow, wow. Yeah, I've noticed that I'm seeing more and more videos coming out of the Northern Cal. I feel like what happened in October kind of really sparked people's interest, or people's like it became on the radar, right? It got on the radar. All right, so now talk to me about that day, October 16. What was you doing, like your regular routine route, or just kind of elaborate kind of on what happened that day?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it was a surprise to me. It's kind of surprise, not surprise, because like I was talking about how that previous Monday, we had already given them the runaround and they weren't able to take anybody. So they showed up to the same exact area on that Thursday that we had the incident. By the time I got to the neighborhood, it's an industrial area. And by the time I got there, 2 or 3 of the agents in their cars had already been followed out of the area by our volunteers that showed up before me. And they were saying that there was a silver Jeep that was still driving around somewhere, and everybody was already on somebody else. So I did a few laps around the general area where we know that they go to because they're not familiar with these areas. So
Mhm.
they always tend to go back to the same streets. And at one of the stoplights, I found him. I was like, oh, cool. How convenient. He's right here at a stoplight. I get to pull up right behind him. And it was very uneventful for those first few minutes because, everybody makes a right turn. Okay, cool. We're making a right turn. Also, when we follow them, there's never any like high speed pursuits. It's always the most boring, lame, following them around for 40 minutes, and they're dumb drivers that go into dead ends all the time. So I was following them, and they pull into another industrial, lonelier street. And that's where they sped up a little bit and made a U-turn to try and go nose to nose with me. Um, and that's where, sure, you can see it in the video. It's like I put it in reverse. I try to get out of the way because I know that if they make a full stop and I make a full stop, that's when four goons hop out with their guns drawn. So I'm not trying to be too close to them. It's
Yeah.
like I'm trying to be annoying. I'm trying to watch you. I'm trying to let you know that I'm here, but I'm not trying to make a full stop, put it in park, and turn off my car while you get comfortable and hop out with your guns drawn. So that's where we started going around in circles, brake check, they hit me. Immediately, the minute that they hit me, I said, wow, these dudes have these dudes have on their big boy pants today. So let's see how far we can take this. Because at that point, I knew I was going to get arrested. At that point, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to end up in cuffs. And I'm going to have to pull over at some point,
And this
but I'm
first
not
hit
going to
is
pull
from
over.
this
What was
first
that?
this first hit is from the back, right?
The very, very first hit is when we were going around in circles and I brake checked him.
Got
And
you.
then after that happened and we made contact, I let my foot off the brake and I just started coasting to see how they were going to respond and what they were going to react like. Because also, again, I don't want to make a full stop because they're going to hop out and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
drag me up. So that's when they came out and surprise to me, they whacked me on the side of the car and I was like, oh, now I'm definitely not stopping right here. And it was a slow creep, but the minute that they hit me and I knew I was going to get arrested, I called the rest of the team. I said, hey, I'll distract them for a while. I'll kill some time while you guys get more people to downtown Oxnard.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to drag me out of the car and beat me up, I need to have some witnesses at least. And I'm not trying to do it on this lonely road. So it was a 10 mile an hour, 10, 15 mile an hour, slow following through the streets until we had enough of a parade that had lined up honking their horns and yelling and making noise to where I felt comfortable. And then I heard police sirens. So I was like, all right, that's my cue to find a dirt parking lot to pull over in. And fortunately, it worked. By the time I made the full stop, it was the local police that had gotten behind me. They had already played the intermediary between me and the ICE agents at that point. A crowd had already formed. And that's where I felt comfortable being like, all right, cool. Well, now that there's enough of a circus here, I could get out of the car comfortably. And yeah, sure enough, hopped out of the car. They checked me for weapons. They asked me my version of the story for 5 minutes and then spent the rest of the 40 minutes with the ICE agents figuring out what they were going to do.
Oh,
So
really?
it was, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't a surprise when they said later on that the ICE agents were saying that I hit them first and it was a hit and run and I, tried to attack them and that they were going to arrest me on, they were going to charge me with assaulting an officer and obstructing an investigation. Um, One of the things that we learned months ago is that they lie every time local law enforcement comes to intervene. They call local law enforcement to intervene and just lie their asses off constantly. So what we started doing months ago is we started to have dash cams. All of our patrollers have dash cams. Records front, records back, it records on a memory card. That's where we get so much content out of, but also at the same time, we did it for our safety originally.
Yeah.
Because if we get a traffic fine for something that they said we do, we at least have proof that it didn't happen that way and we get cases dismissed or things get thrown out and things of that nature. So I knew that I would be absolved once we were in court, but I also knew that I was going to be locked up for a minute. I was going to be facing these charges, and as long as they didn't have anything that they could really pin me on, my license is up to date, registration is up to date, insurance is up to date. I knew I didn't do anything wrong, so I was like, all right, cool, take me away. What I didn't know is that for the next few hours, there was a video circulating that somebody had recorded from across the street when the incident originally happened, and that was picking up on social media. I had no idea about that until I got released a few hours later. So once the police were there assessing the situation, they said, all right, well, yeah, they're going to charge you with all that, and we're going to hand you over to the feds because we don't have anything to charge you with. And once they put me in cuffs and the ankle cuffs and put me in the ICE's SUV, I requested to go to a hospital. I said, "You guys got to take me to a hospital, man. You guys just whacked me. I don't feel too good. You know, I have a light headache. My neck is sore." And we spent maybe the next 3 hours. It's hard to gauge. I didn't have my phone on me. About 3 hours at the hospital waiting for the MRI results and everything else. They drugged me up pretty decent and sent me on my way. ICE agents took me down to the federal facility. I was there in the back of an SUV for maybe 30, 40 minutes. And they just took me out to process me. And then they took me to the nearest gate, took everything off, and said I was being released pending charges, which I didn't understand at the time until I got out and learned about the whole viral video and everybody's attention. And there was a press conference scheduled, and there was a circus that had armed, and all the volunteers had done an incredible job of not only following me the entire way, but raising hell at the hospital, raising hell at the federal building. And that was impressive. It was impressive because it wasn't impressive that the volunteers were able to move so effectively and so quickly. Yes, that was it. But I knew that that was going to happen, and it made sense because we had so many months of training. I wasn't the first or the last to be arrested. I wasn't the first or the last to be accused of something and then be released pending charges. Mm-hmm. So it's a testament to the work that we'd already done and the experience that we'd accumulated as a group and as a collective, to where we were able, you couldn't ask for a better way for things to play out. It really couldn't have been a better way for things to play out. I'm really happy with how that resulted.
Yeah, when I saw the video for a second, I was like, holy crap, this guy just rammed your, because he kind of like T-boned you, right?
Yeah. They tried to hit the driver's side. They tried to kill me. I didn't think about that at first until someone's like, yo, they tried to kill you. I was like, oh shit, you're right. I guess I didn't think about it like that.
Like 2 miles slower.
Yeah.
He would have, you know, who knows what the hell would happen to you. But by the time because I was at work, by the time I kind of like got out and was able trying to catch up with what's going on, I saw you coming out of the detention center here in LA, and it was kind of heartwarming to see how many people were out there when you came out.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Talk to me a little bit about the thought process, or just how you felt when you behind the ICE vehicle, right? Like I'm sure at that point you probably didn't even know what the hell was going to happen next.
Yeah, when you get behind these ICE vehicles, it's kind of a sense of relief in a sense, but it's like a calm before the storm that you feel, because when you're looking for the ICE vehicles, or when you know there's an ICE vehicle in the area, but you don't have eyes on them, you get this anxiety because you feel like you're chasing ghosts. You feel like he's right around the next corner, and then you go zip over there and there's nothing there. And it could have been an hour ago that they were there. You don't know until later on, right? Like all you know is that there's a report that just came in right now that they're right here on this street. But that report could have been 20 minutes delayed between the time that the person called you and you actually get there. So there is a sense of like massive amounts of anxiety of like, where are these guys? Where are these guys? Where are these guys? Yeah. Once you find them and you get behind them, you're like, okay, cool. Now I could relax for a bit because I got eyes on them. Yeah, they might drive crazy eventually and run a red light or run stop signs or do this and that, but at least I have eyes on them right now.
Yeah.
And so once they turned on us, you're like, oh shit, the storm kicks up again. Now the storm is over, and now what's going to happen next, right? So that anxiety is not like that it kind of balances out with the pre-finding them anxiety. But the one thing that I felt comfortable and confident with is we have a strong team, and we're not doing anything illegal or anything wrong. So anything that happens to me from here on out, it might get drawn out. I might spend a few nights in jail. It might be this whole thing, but we got a legal team. We got a ton of volunteers. We got some resources. I'm covered. My mom's a volunteer. Like everybody's like, we're all proud of what we're doing as a group collective. So I don't feel like there's anything I need to hide or be ashamed of or duck and dodge, right? Because the one thing that I keep telling people is like, regardless of how much anxiety and fear I felt once they turned their energy on me, that pales in comparison to undocumented folks that find themselves in that same situation, have way, way, way deeper consequences than I would ever have having that privilege of citizenship, which is the reason why I'm in that position in the first place. It's like we put ourselves in that position because we're going to have a better result than undocumented folks when they find themselves there, right? So, and it's something that I have to constantly be bringing up and mentioning in interviews, because they'll ask me, how did you feel in that moment when you got hit? I was like, yeah, there might have been that, but I felt comfortable because we have resources. We have lawyers, we have this, we have that, we have a team. We've been doing this work for a long time, and it compared to folks that are undocumented doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's different when you have like the support and the resources, which is kind of like what the messages and the movement, right? Like to try to get more people who couldn't afford to get in trouble and still come out and sacrifice themselves for those who can't, right? Because they're the ones that are dealing with the brunt of the brutality, which is brutalization, being deported. Who knows where they're going to be sent? They might get sent to El Salvador. They might get sent to a country they're not even from, can't even speak the language. So, yeah, I second that. What's it been like now, since October 16 in Oxnard? Have you seen more raids? Have you seen more stops? What's the vibe?
We did see an uptick in activity the last week and a half, maybe. But we got this. The truth is that maybe only about 10 to 15% of the work we do is the patrolling in the streets. It is something we recommend everybody do. It's something we ask everybody, hey, if you leave at 7 in the morning to go take your kids to school, maybe leave a half hour earlier and swing by any bakeries or panaderias or any day labor spots on your way there. That way you could at least check those off your list and know that you swung by and you combed it for any suspicious cars, because they tend to hover in neighborhoods and wait and then come back with a team to make arrests later. So if we could catch them in that scouting phase and we could kick them out in that scouting phase, they'll never come back with a group of 4 or 5 vehicles. So the rest of the work that we do is what I was talking about earlier, the workshops, the food distribution I was at this morning, for example, or a lot of the family support, which I got a person to go meet with in a bit, right? Or connecting with lawyers, or, even at this point, we've evolved to the point where we have a small subgroup of the moms, that my mom's in a subgroup too, that are holding the Mexican consulate accountable for all the lawyers that they're recommending that are just out here jacking people for money. So that's like there's so much work that ends up getting done across the board,
Yeah.
and we're very happy with that.
Yeah. Before you go, one last thing is I feel like with the recent activities in Ventura, I feel like for me, it woke up a sleeping giant because Oxnard and like the Central Valley has like a long, strong history of organizing, of strikes and
Yeah,
protests from the 1903 and 1937 beat strikes, in the
yeah.
90s, the strawberry strikes. Have you seen a surge of more people wanting to volunteer and get involved?
Oh yeah, we've had a flood. It's the reason why we were able to hit 700, 800 volunteers within a short period of time. Pre-June 5th, we had maybe 320 something, and within a month and a half, it just snowballed fast. Because also there was so much activity from all these out of town ICE agents and everything else, to where it snowballed so fast that it took us a while to catch up with the trainings. It took us a while. Like, we're doing this, there's not really much of a blueprint. Even the blueprints that existed, like, they're already outdated 2, 3 months into the project, right? So we're learning as we go. And one of the impressive things that we have is we have such a diverse group of volunteers that do this work. We have a whole brigade of 60 to 70 folks that are all medical professionals, that are doctors, nurses, caretakers, people that work within the medical system, that formed their own committee to be able to address things not only within their workplaces, but to be able to provide resources and free clinics to the communities we work with. So that's kind of a two-way street that we love and support a bunch. We also have the same thing with a bunch of educational professionals that have done a similar thing, about same thing, about 60, 70 of the educational professionals that meet on their own regularly, that are already volunteers of us,
Mhm.
of our group, but then they formed their subcommittee so they could start focusing on things that have to do with that. A lot of us, there's a lot of white folks, and at first we're like, what are we going to do with all these white folks that don't speak Spanish or don't speak any other language? Like, where do we put them to work? So they do a lot of the patrolling because they could put their privilege on the line. They also connect us with a lot of the small businesses. They also connect us with funders and donators. They also connect us with they work with the teachers and the medical professionals to try and get us more workshops in places. So they do their labor on that, or they help with the food distribution, or a multitude of things. And then for a lot of us, especially those of us that grew up in undocumented households or mixed status households, because we have a certain amount of experience, well, and we're able to speak multiple languages, we focus on the family support. And also a lot of the work that we do comes from And this is something I make clear to a lot of the older folks, especially when they like try to thank us a lot for the work that we're doing. And I tell them, the thanks isn't in this direction from you guys to us. That this is the work that we're doing is the thank you from us to you guys.
Yeah.
Because we were all these little kids running around, watching the stress that you were put under, watching how this country treated you, watching how much work you put in and how little you got paid. And it was frustrating and infuriating when these injustices that would happen, and we weren't able to do anything about it at the time. That sticks with you, that stays with you for your life. And now that we're adults and we can do something about that, we're not going to let that happen under our watch. So this is our thank you to you guys for the work that you've put in. And I think that that's, yes, it's a trauma response, but we're trying to find the healthiest ways to process those traumas. And that's why we have sometimes there's volunteers that only came into this like a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months, but I'll take a bullet for those volunteers because we've been through so much shit in the last month and a half, right? To the point where I've seen them tested, I've seen their character, I've seen them be pushed, I've seen the highs and we've seen the devastating lows. But at no point in these last 10, 11 months that we've been doing this have I ever felt hopeless. Quite the opposite. Even in the worst of the worst situations with Glass House and everything, there wasn't a sense of hopelessness because yes, I'm answering 100 phone calls as a dispatcher and crying with folks on the line because I don't have answers for them or because I'm giving them every information I have. But I also know that there's 3 other dispatchers that are also handling 100 phone calls a day at the same exact time. And I know that there's teams that are going around to every family at around Ice House and trying to jot down names and numbers. And there's this. The point is we have a plan. It might not be the best plan sometimes, but one of the phrases that kind of hovers around the work that we do is like it's a Spanish phrase that says es mejor estar ocupado que preocupado. So it's it's better to be busy than it is to be worried.
Yeah.
And if we weren't doing this work, we'd just be doom scrolling or we'd be doing something else, right? So it's like we collectively try to find the most effective way to do the work that we can that's going to benefit our community.
Yeah, yeah, and you got the resources, you got the pool of people to help you with that. So like they say, you know, we're we're not outnumbered, we're just out organized. So
Yeah,
yeah, so it looks like
yeah,
I'm glad that Oxnard is you know, being organized and you guys are fighting back. So yeah, man, Leo,
yeah.
thank you for your time, dude. If you want to shout out any organizations, and we'll add the handles and all that on the description of the show. But if you want to make any shout outs for any of the orgs that you work with.
Just BC Defensa, we're a coalition of a bunch of orgs. Which the other impressive part too is that from years of organizing and supporting a lot of the movements around the county, that favor ended up coming back tenfold because those first groups of volunteers were all the people that we supported during the Palestine struggle that we were a part of for the last 2 years. It was everything, you know, we had people flooding in from the George Floyd protest a few years ago, from the No Dapple protest relationships that we made there. Like a lot of those movements that have existed and had their moment that we always supported, those came back tenfold to be our volunteers. And that's why we got a group of volunteers. We got queer folks, trans folks, Filipino folks, we got bilingual folks, trilingual folks, we got a lot of white folks, we got so we have a solid mix of folks that are around us that I'm really proud of.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, thank you for your time, brother.
Abraham, thank you very much, man.